So whenever they ask you for the union, we cover the union, which is take the two items and combine them together. But we never work any math problem related to the union. So the difference between the union versus the intersection was the intersection is what we're looking for, the common item, the item that is in common, and the union is we just combine the two items together. So in terms of this item, as you can see, last time we worked with the OR problem. We worked with the compound inequality that involved the word and. Now we want to work with a compound inequality that involved with the word or. So how can we solve this not word problem, but this inequality that involved the word or? So copy this problem down for me, and I will share you the other one that I have to write. So basically, one thing is whenever you see the word or, your goal is this, ladies and gentlemen. We treat this as two different problems. We have one problem on the left, and we have one problem on the right. So whatever your item is, we always treat at two different problems, and we work one problem at a time. Unlike the and last time, is they compile together, they put it together, and you have to work in the center and move away from the center. Okay, so let's take a look at this particular problem in A. We have 3x less than -18 or 5x greater than 20. So how would we go about to solve this problem? So in order for you to solve this problem, give me 1 second. So in order for you to solve this problem, like I mentioned, we will treat this problem by itself and this problem by itself, okay? So to solve the first problem, like I mentioned, we have one problem here and two problem, which is problem number 2 there. To solve the first problem, do you agree that I need to get rid of my 3? I need to get rid of this 3 here, and to get rid of the 3, because it's multiplication to the x, do you agree that I need to divide by 3 to both sides? Because this 3 on top and this 3 on the bottom, they cancel out to give me x less than 3 going to -18 will give me -6. I am done. I got my x by itself. I have one problem. And on the other side, this is what we have, is we have 5x greater than 20. Same idea goal. Our goal is we need to get rid of this 5. And to get rid of the 5, we need to divide. And when we divide, the 5 on top and the 5 on the bottom, they cancel out in the sense that I have my x greater than 4. So the problem comes is this word here. What is the word or mean? When you graph this, solving is easy. Solving, you get x by itself. Once you get x by itself, you got a check. Now the graphing part. So to graph this thing here, first of all, make sure that you identify your endpoint, a smaller endpoint on the left and the larger endpoint on the right. Do you agree that my -6 is smaller? So I put the -6 on the left. My 4 is bigger than -6, so I put it on the right. Now, this is what the or mentioned. This right here, we say that x is less than -6. What number is less than -6? Do you agree that this number, any number on the left of -6 is less than -6. Agree?
He has had enough. He has had.
And looking at this right here, on the right-hand side, give me one. Do you guys still see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, I see the screen.
And do you agree that any number to the right of 4 is bigger than -4, +4? So this is my OR question, ladies and gentlemen. The OR question is basically tell you number that bigger than 4, any number is bigger than 4 is on the right of 4, or any number that is less than -6. And because of the word or, it's either one or the other, meaning we have to include both sides. We have to include the side that less than -6 and the side that is bigger than 4. Now, let me ask you, at -6, do I use in a bracket or the parenthesis? So remember, in order to do this thing here, if we have a bracket, if we have an equal sign, which is in this case, we have to use the parenthesis because they don't have a equal sign. So we don't have an equal sign, we use a parenthesis. And similarly, over here, we have to use the parenthesis. So this is how your graph should look like, which is the item on our left of -6 and the item on my right of 4, okay? So that is how you graph the OR, and most of the time, ladies and gentlemen, 99% of the time, your OR graph will look like that. You will have something go to the left and something go to the right. And now, how do you write this in interval notation? Because on your homework, they will ask you to write in interval. To write your interval notation, just basically take this item. Do you agree that my interval or my graph, I have this item with the 6? If it's go to the left, reminder, where do we start? How do we start? Which is, we need to start at -infinity, go all the way to 6. And if we take this item down, we have to start at 4, go into +infinity. Remember, this thing here, it's keep on going and going and going, and it doesn't stop. This thing here is keep on going, and it doesn't stop, which is we have some smaller number on the left, which is -infinity, and we have some small number +infinity, which is some big number on the right. Now, if you can see that there is a gap between -6 and 4, how do we justify this graph? Well, to make this gap, we need to put the union side together. Or the union side is basically tell me that take this number, whatever this group of number from -infinity to -6, put that together with a number that is between 4 and +infinity. So if you look at this question here, if you, let me clear this item. Question, this is the question they ask. Pick me a number for X. Whatever number you can come up with for X, that when you plug it in here, is smaller than -18. And if that is not the case, pick me another number for X, any other number for X that when you plug in here, that is bigger than 20. So because of the word or is either one or the other, and that is why we have to choose both sides. We have to choose the left item and the right item too. Unlike, if you remember last time, the AND problem. If you remember the AND problem, and I told you guys that the AND compound inequality, the inequality is always the overlapping, which is the middle portion of the graph. The number that is bigger than this item but smaller than this item. Right? So that is your AND problem. Your graph for the AND is look like that. The graph for the OR will look like this. And the interval for the n, if you remember the interval for the n is basically you have some number inside and you have some other number on the inside, right? Which is they overlap. But now when we deal with the OR, your OR graph, you will have some gap, because this gap, this number here, this group of number that we have in between -6, let's say this group of number here, do you agree that the number 3 is not smaller than -6 and is not bigger than 4? So this group of number in between, we are not using, because we are not, those number does not fit the description. To be short, your OR graph will always look like this item. Your OR graph will always go outward, and your confident interval notation will always have a gap in between. Okay, so let's take a look at B. Let's take a look at B, and then I will see if you guys have questions. So B, if you did not able to copy it down, B is this, which is 4x minus 1 less than or equal to 11, or -2x plus 9 less than or equal to 29. So this is our problem. And like I mentioned, just whenever you see the word OR, just imagine you have two different problems. You need to solve for x. We need to get x by itself. For this item, we need to get x by itself. And for this item, we need to get x by itself. That is our goal. And hopefully you guys see that this is the easy problem. Why? How easy is this? You know that I need to get rid of the 1 first. I need to get rid of the addition first. And to get rid of the addition, do you agree that I need to add 1? To subtract 1, I need to add 1 to both sides. And if I add 1 to both sides, my new problem will be 4x 11 plus 1 to give me 12. And now how do I get rid of the 4? To get rid of the 4, just like before, I need to divide. And when I divide, I have x less than or equal to 3. So I got my x by itself. My x by itself is done. I got one item, which is x is less than or equal to 3 on one side. Now I have to do it on the other side. And similarly, on the other side, I need to subtract 9 to both sides, because positive 9 take away 9, they cancel out. My new problem, I have a -2x less than or equal to 20. And now how do I get rid of the -2? Remember, we need to divide by a -2. And when you divide by a -2, hopefully you guys recognize that because we divide by a -2, your inequality have to change in the direction. -2 over -2 cancel out, which that will give me my x. And because I divide by a negative, my inequality become greater than. And -2 going to 20 will give me -10. And be careful, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I have. 20, 10, -10. I make a mistake. Put this as an, it's fine. Let me give you the special case. This is a special case that I did not want to cover, but since this is what we have, I will cover it too. So first of all, everybody agree that this is what I have. X is less than or equal to 3, and X is greater than or equal to -10. And I done the solving part. And to finish this item, they will ask you to graph. And make sure, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that we need to do if you doing this item, make sure you identify your negative number, your smaller number on the left, and the positive number, the big number on the right. So why do I say a special case? And let's take a look at 3. First of all, we know at 3, we're using a bracket, right? First of all, we know that at 3, we're using a bracket, and x is less than 3. You agree that x is less than 3 is this good number here. Any of the number to the left of 3 is less than 3. So we got that. Now, for -10, we know that we have to use a bracket. And at -10, do you agree that x is greater than -10? So because that this thing here, do you agree that anything to the left of 3 is smaller than 3 and anything to the right of 10 is greater than 10? And why do I say that this is the special case? Remember what kind of problem you have. Your problem is the OR problem. If it's the AND problem, your problem is the OR problem here. If it's the AND problem, and yes, I agree with you that we're looking for the overlapping, and the overlapping part is just the thing in the middle, the red and the blue overlap. If we're looking for the AND, then we're looking for the overlap. But because we're looking for the OR is either one or the other. If you can find me, the question right here is find me a number, any number you can come up with that is smaller than 3. If you cannot find that number smaller than 3, a number that is bigger than -10. So do you see that basically every single number here fit the description that is either smaller than 3 or bigger than -10? And if this is the case, this is the 1% that I mentioned. Last time I mentioned to you guys that 99% of the time your graph will go outward, one go to the left, one go to the right. And this is the 1% of the time that if your endpoint swap, this is the item we have. And when you write your interval notation, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first new item is when you write your interval notation, you basically tell the problem or real number. Meaning no matter what you have, no matter what you choose, doesn't matter what number you come up with, it will be either bigger than or smaller than 3. Doesn't matter what number you can come up with, you will not be able to find something that doesn't fit that 2 description. The 2 description that we're looking for is give me some number that is bigger than -10, or if that is not the description we have, give me some number that is smaller than 3. And again, I know that right here, if you say right here, this is -18, -18 is not bigger than -10. I agree with you. -18 is, but -18 is smaller than 3. So as long as it fit one description, we are allowed to use it. And if you choose a number 25 over here, you say, wait a minute, 25 is not smaller than 3. Well, it's okay. 25 is not smaller than 3, and you are correct. But 25 is bigger than -10. So as long as fit one description, and that's where the OR come in. The OR is either one or the other. It doesn't have to be both, okay? And that's why it doesn't matter what number you choose. Doesn't matter what number you choose. As long as you choose a number, it will fit the description that is smaller than 3 or bigger than -10. And that's why your confidence interval or your notation will be from -infinity all the way to +infinity. It basically tell you that it's all real number, okay? And again, I supposed to put a -29 up here. My original problem is supposed to be a -29 to keep it consistent with what we have, but it's okay. I can show you this. So if you see this on your, MyMathLab, and you don't know why that is, because you deal with the OR problem. because you're dealing with the OR problem and they consider every single number that you can come up with, okay? So let's take a look at C, and hopefully C can clarify. So the original C I have is 3 open parenthesis 2x minus 1 close the parenthesis less than or equal to negative 21, or 7x less than 11 greater than or equal to 24. So this is the two problem I have. I have one problem here and a second problem here, and my problem deal with the word or. And just like before, if you look at this thing here, just like before, we know that we need to get rid of the parenthesis. And to get rid of the parenthesis, we know that we need to distributive this item in. And if you distributive, we have 6x minus 3 less than or equal to negative 21. I haven't done anything with the 21. I haven't done anything with the less than equal sign. So this is what I have. And do you agree that I need to get rid of the negative 3? You can disagree, but you will be wrong. We need to get rid of negative 3, and to get rid of the negative or to get rid of the subtraction, we need to add. And this is my new problem. I have 6x less than or equal to, again, same sign I add, opposite side I subtract. 21 take away 3 to give me 18. And because of the 21 is bigger, I kept the sign of the larger number. In this case, I have a negative 18. And lastly, we need to divide it by 6. We need to get rid of the 6, and to get rid of the 6, we need to divide. And if we divide, make sure that you see that I did not. My inequality did not change in direction. Why? Because I did not divide by a negative number. My answer can be negative. My answer, 6 going to negative 18 will give me negative 3. My answer can be negative. But because I did not divide by a negative inequality, my negative number, my inequality stay the same, okay? So we know that my x is done. I solve for x for 1. Now I need to do it on the other problem, and the other problem, just like the one that you just did, to get rid of subtraction, I need to add. And if I add, I have 7x greater than or equal to 24 plus 11, that would give me 35. And how do I get rid of the 7? To get rid of the 7, I need to divide. And if I divide, x is greater than or equal to 5. So first of all, now, and over this weekend, when you do tests, whoever did not do your test, when you do your test by this Saturday, make sure you have the right equipment to do your test by this Saturday. Solving is the same, right? Solving is we do the opposite operation. And now once we have this item, your new material is, how do we graph this? For me to graph this, I have my endpoint, which is negative 3 on the left, positive 5 on the right. So let's look at this item. And if you remember, I told you that if your x is on the left-hand side, wherever the inequality pointed, that is where we shade it. So anything to the left of negative 3 is smaller than negative 3. And vice versa, my x is on the left, and this thing point to the right, meaning I shaded. Anything to the right of 5, anything to the right of 5 is bigger than 5, larger than 5, okay? So like I say, this rule will always work if your x is on the left-hand side of your inequality. If your x is on the left-hand side of inequality, wherever the is where we shade it. Is where we shade it.
Can I ask a question?
Question.
So I'm sorry. So on my math lab, or even the test whenever it's done, is there going to be a graph there, or do we have to draw a graph, or do we just have the graph is there and we have to plug in the numbers and shade the areas? I mean, how does it work?
I think on the graph on my MATLAB, the graph is multiple choice. They give you, I think, 4 or 5 options that you need to choose for.
Okay.
So you want to graph in your paper, you want to graph in your notebook, and then you look at your graph and compare to the graph that they give you. So I think the graphing part on my MATLAB is they give you the actual graph itself. Is the inequality, the interval notation, that is what you need to know how to write.
Okay, so the answer to like C, the one we're working on, would be, you know, X is less than or equal to -3.
Right.
And the X is greater than or equal to 5. And then of course we plug in the right numbers for our graph, and then that would be the answer, correct?
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I thought I missed something.
So basically on the graph, on the homework, on the quiz, part 1, they ask you to solve. And when you solve, pretty much, again, they will tell you that this is the 2 number that you need to put in, which is -3 and 5, right? Let me clear some of this so it won't look messy. So when you they will ask you to solve, and your part is your X equal to -3 and your X is greater than to 5. So those are the solving part. You put in your answer. And then the second part, they will tell you graph it. And to graph it, they will give you like 4 different graphs, and you have to verify which graph is which, or which is the graph that corresponds to your problem. So in terms of this thing here, just go back to this item. Do you agree at my endpoint at -3, I have to use a bracket, and I have to use the bracket to the left, and at 5, I have to use the bracket too, and reminder, why am I using the, because of the equal sign. Because we have an equal sign, we use a bracket. But shading is the same. We shade it to the right here, and we shade it to the left on this side, okay? So you just, when you graph this thing here, you're gonna see one of the 4 graphs that look like this, and then you choose it, either A, B, C, or D, okay? And one thing is, if you did the homework for this section, you know that you kind of can eliminate some of the graph, right? If you see this graph, you can eliminate, if they say -3 and 5, and the graph is the parenthesis. If the graph is parenthesis and my item is a bracket, I know that I can eliminate this X, this graph, right? So, you know, because it's multiple choice, you can eliminate 2 of them, and the other 2, you just have to see which one that look like your problem, okay? Now, how do you write this in interval notation, which is part B, part C? How do we write this in interval notation? Well, your interval notation is basically this. You take this item here, ladies and gentlemen, you take this item, and because it's the bracket to the left, you put in your number. Everybody see that my bracket to the left, I just take the bracket down and put the number on the inside of the bracket. And because it's going to the left, I know that I need to start from -infinity, go, and vice versa, same idea. I need to take this item, I need to take the bracket down and put the number on the inside. Because it's going to the right, where do I stop? Well, I stop at infinity. So as you can see earlier, I mentioned this is 95% of the time, this is how your OR graph look like. And because of the OR graph, there's a gap. And to make this graph, to fill in this graph, this gap, we put in the union, the U, to basically tell you, take this group of number and combine with this group of number. So your inequality like that, your interval notation, I should say. Your interval notation will look like this. There's a union, there's a big gap, so there's a union between the 2, okay? So question of how to solve this item. Again, solving should be the same as before. New with the solve, but question of the solving here. And if you don't have question of solving, question of how you take your answer, and put in the and lastly, do you see how we took the graph and put in the interval notation? So this is the last thing that I have that I did not cover in 9.1. So any question with this particular problem here?
No, so in the rectangle, that would be the final answer, correct?
Well, that's just your
The interval notation.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
interval notation. Yes.
So it'll be like
three
a
of them.
it'll be like a 3-part question, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So if you have this thing here, which is, let's take a look of, if you don't have question with 9.1, let's take a look at 3.3. Where's my 3.3? So 3.3, this is where I want to continue with this thing from yesterday. So from yesterday, 3.2, and we will transition this into 3.3. So 3.2, remember the last portion that we did yesterday is, if I give you this equation, can you graph them? Can you find me a 3-ordered pair and then graph this item here? And I told you that if they ask you to find any ordered pair, then you have the option, which is whatever you choose, you can put it in. And for me, I like to choose the 0 diagonal. And the 0 diagonal just tell me that one of them is for the Y and one of them for the X. And I will tell you why, or this is the bridge to 3.3. And the other one, last time someone asked, why am I choosing 3? The only reason why I choose 3 here is because I have the denominator of 3. So I want to choose the multiple of 3 so that I can cancel them out. Okay. So basically you just choose your own number. You can pick any number you want, is up to you. But 0 diagonal should be the easy one to choose, because if you plug in 0 for Y, this is what we did yesterday, 0 for Y. We move the 5 over, and to move the 5 over, we need to add. Once we add the 5, 0 plus 5 is 5. How do I get rid of the denominator? How do I get rid of division? I need to multiply. And if I multiply on one side, I need to multiply on the other side to give me X equal to 15. So I have my ordered pair, 15, 0. And if you plug in 0 for X, life is good. Why? Because Y is just equal to -5. Your Y is by itself. There's nothing you need to solve. Your Y is done, which is my ordered pair will be 0, -5. And lastly, if you plug in 3 in for the X, the 3 in for the X, 3 times 3, or 3 times 1/3. 1/3 of 3, 3 over 3 is equal to 1. 1 minus 5 will give me -4. And I have, that is my Y. So my ordered pair is 3, -4. And this is what the last item we have in 3.2. And how do you graph this item? Where is your 15, 0? Imagine that this graph keep going, and 15 is where my red dot is at. 0 tell me stay put. 0, -5, 0 tell me to stay put, and -5 tell me go down 5 steps, 5 individual line. So don't get the number confused you. The number is for the actual line. It's not the square that we're looking at, okay? So each line is your number. So we go down 5 line, that's where my -5. And where is 3? 3 tell me go to the right 3, and -4 tell me go down. And all you need to do is draw the line to connect the dot. And this is what we have last time. This is the last problem we covered yesterday. question on how to graph this line by picking your own 3 point. And because of this number is, because my graph all have only even number, that's why I don't want to pick any number that have a decimal. And if you have a decimal, it's kind of hard to plug in the value. And that's why I like to pick the whole number. Okay. Now, before we go to 3.3, there are two extreme items that we want to take a look at. So what if they ask you to graph this line? Graph the line, the linear equation y equal to 3. Find 3 ordered pair for this solution. So do you agree that y equal to 3, meaning what can you pick for y? Well, y is equal to 3. There's nothing else you can pick for y other than 3. Agree? They don't tell us much. They just tell us that y equal to 3. So in this case, my y is equal to 3, my y is equal to 3, my y is equal to 3. I have no other choice because that's the only thing they tell me that I can choose. Y is equal to 3. And if that's the case, do you agree right here? Do you agree that anything, right? I can pick -5, go to 3, 0, go to 3, and 2, go to 3. As long as you can see, or looking at this item here, doesn't matter what you choose for x. Because the problem don't ask you to choose for x. The problem tell you y equal to 3. You have no other option other than y equal to 3, meaning if you look at this item, this is your horizontal line. Because no matter where you travel, do you agree? No matter where you travel along this line, no matter where you walk along this line, the only thing changing is your x value. Your y value does not change. As long as you're on this line here, this will be -10x, the y is 3. This will be -8x, but the y is 3. Over here, it will be 8x, but the y is 3. Meaning the y does not change, okay? So this is the special case that if y is equal to a constant, if y is equal to a number, it's a horizontal line through the y, okay? Again, there's nothing to solve. You already solved. This problem already solved. This problem tells you y is equal to 3, so there's nothing to solve. You just basically pick your x. Doesn't matter what you pick for x, the red dot can be here, can be anywhere along this green line. And as long as along this green line, my y is equal to 3, 1, 2, and 3, okay? So this is just a special case in terms of the horizontal line versus the other item, versus this item, x is equal to -4. And similarly to the previous problem, you are forced, ladies and gentlemen, you are forced. You don't have any option of x other than -4. And that's why your x is -4. But how do we do this? Do you agree that doesn't matter what point I choose for y? Doesn't matter what point I choose for y, my x is equal to -4. So -4 tell me go to the left, 3 tell me go up 3 spaces. -4, 0 tell me -4 here and 0 stay put. -4, -6 tell me -4 go down 6 slot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slot, which is in this item. Your -4, x equal to -4 is your vertical line straight down at -4 on the x-axis. Okay, this is your vertical line because it's forced. No matter where you go on this vertical line, your x is equal to -4. Okay, so question with this two extreme, x equal to a number versus y equal to a number. You know, just
My only question is, so the 0 doesn't have to go between the -1 and the 1. The 0 can just be just on the line.
the line is 0. I mean,
Okay,
that is
so
right here is 0. Right here is 0, 0. 0 for the
okay.
x and 0 for the y. Right.
Right.
Your ordered pair, that's right at this item right here. That's your 0. So the 0 is the line itself, right? It's between
Okay.
-1 and 1. It's between -1 and 1 on top and bottom and on left and right. So 0 is right there.
Okay. Thank you.
Once you left the origin, once you left, you know, if you go to right, you move one step, right? If you go to left, you move one step. So in the middle here, in this origin, this is where the 0, 0, or this is the 0 for X and 0 for the Y, okay? So let's take a look at this item. So that is 3.2 in the sense that they give you some equation and they ask you to graph. And if they give you X equal to something, that will be your vertical line straight to whatever the X is. And if they ask you Y equals something, it's a horizontal line through the Y. So let's take a look at 3.3, the intersection or interception. So intersection is basically tell you we have a Y-intercept and the X-intercept. The Y-intercept is basically where the graph crosses the Y-axis, and the X-intercept is where the line crosses the X-axis. So if we were to have this line, if we were to have this graph, and you can see my green arrow crosses the X-axis and crosses the Y-axis. So wherever they crosses, for instance, if they give you this item and they ask you to identify the X-intercept and the Y-intercept, how do you identify the X-intercept and Y-intercept? Well, the X-intercept, do you agree that this is where my green item crosses my X-axis? So the X-intercept tell me that my X is equal to some number, which is in this case, I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I move 7 units to the right. So my X-intercept will be 7, 0. The Y is equal to 0 because it stayed put, okay? And the Y-intercept, do you agree that this is where the line or the green item crosses the Y-axis, right? And this is where it crosses the Y-axis. So now, what do I have? Where is my ordinate pair? Well, it tells me to stay at 0. I did not move to left or I did not move to right, meaning I stay at 0. And how many steps do I go up? I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is why my ordinate pair 0 for the X, comma, Y is equal to 5, okay? So clearly you can see the X-intercept and Y-intercept to be short is where your graph, whatever your graph is, wherever the graph go through the X-axis versus go through the Y-axis. The vertical line is your Y-axis and the horizontal line is your X-axis. Question on how to determine or how to identify your X-intercept and your Y-intercept.
Yes. If we put the numbers in, you know, in like if I would have put 0, 7, would that have been wrong?
Yes.
Okay, tell me again, why will it be wrong?
Because 0, remember the first item is always your X item. The first, your ordinate pair is this. Your ordinate pair will always be X, comma, Y. That is your ordinate pair. And your X, what does your X tell you to do? Well, your X tell you to go to the left or the right, and your Y tell you go up or down. So if you tell me 0, 7, that's what you say.
Oh, you
right?
would have went down.
Well, 7, you have to go up.
Right. Yeah,
So,
well, that's not, yeah, I get it now. I get it. Thank you.
Right. So 0 tell you stay here. Right. 7 tell you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is this line right here. So that is not this red dot that we have. Okay. So again, the first number tells you to go left or right. The second number tells you go up or down, and that's where your X and Y, that's where your X and your Y. The first number tell because of this item. So when you identify them, you always identify left or right first, and then up or down. Okay. Question. Now, the second item you have is instead of looking at the graph, what if they ask you to find the X-intercept and to find the Y-intercept, right? So to find the x-intercept, this is the rule that we have to find the x-intercept, or not the rule, the item we have. To find the x-intercept, we need to let y equal to 0 and solve for x. And to solve for the y-intercept, we need to let x equal to 0 and solve for y. And that's all there is, ladies and gentlemen. That's all there is in terms of the intercept. How can the x-intercept? Well, y got to be equal to 0 in order for them to cross the x-axis. How can it be a y-intercept? Well, the x got to be 0 in order for the line to cross the y. Okay. So in another word, this is what I tell you, and I will do that in the next example. In another word, if they ask you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, all you need to do is find or create this table, construct the table, and use the 0 diagonal. Okay, so let's do what I have up here for you in terms of find the x-intercept and find the y-intercept for this item. We know to find the x-intercept, let's find the x-intercept first. They tell me to let y equal to 0. What does it mean y equal to 0? Well, y equal to 0 meaning I plug in 0 for the y. And if I plug in 0 for the y, everybody see it right here, my x is just equal to 5. So if you look at this ordered pair, x is equal to 9, and that's why I have 9 for the x, the first item. Y is equal to 0, that's why my ordered pair is 9, 0, meaning it's telling me go to the right 9 spaces and just stay there. That's where this graph, where this line crosses the x-axis. And how do I find the y-intercept? To find the y-intercept, they tell me to let x equal to 0. And if I let x equal to 0, I have 0 minus 3y. What is 0 minus 3y? Well, 0 minus 3y is just basically negative 3y equal to 9. And if I have negative 3y, how do I solve for y? To solve for y, I need to divide by negative 3. And if I divide by negative 3, everybody see that y is equal to negative 3. Because negative 3 going to 9 will give me a negative 3. So what is this ordered pair? This ordered pair is 0 for the x. That's why, where do we have a 0? We say x is equal to 0 here. Comma, the y equal to negative 3. That's where the y comes from. Reminder, your ordered pair is always the x first and the y second. And once you have this, if you were to graph this, 9, 0 is here, 0, negative 3 is here, and all you need to do is connect the two dots. Okay, so everybody see that 9, 0, 9 tell me go to the right 9 spaces, 0 just stay there. And negative 0, negative 3, 0 tell me stay in the middle, negative 3 tell me go down 3 spaces, which is there is my 0, negative 3. And all I need to do for this graph, all we need to do is connect the two dots over like that. So question on how to find the x-intercept. Again, find the x-intercept, we let y equal to 0, which is x, 0. And to find the y-intercept, we let x equal to 0, which is 0, y. Question with this particular problem. And if you don't see this and you say, wait a minute, in 3.2, we got the table, it's easy for me to understand. Let's take a look at this item. Same idea, basically they give you this equation and they ask you to find the x and the y-intercept. So if you don't like A, this is what my suggestion to you guys is, construct your table. We did this table before, right? Construct your table. Everybody see that I put the 0 diagonal. Why do I put a 0 diagonal? Because the rule tell me that in order for me to find the x-intercept, I let y equal to 0. In order for me to find the y-intercept, I let x equal to 0. So if you want to, you can construct this chart. Since we've been doing, or you've been doing the chart or the table, we can construct this table and just fill in the 0 diagonal. We only need to choose 2 of them because the x-intercept and the y-intercept, that's only 2 points. And if I put 0 for the y, do you agree that wherever I see the y, I plug in 0? And if I plug in 0, I have negative 4x equal to 24. How do I get rid of the -4? I need to divide. And when I divide, do you agree that the x is equal to -6? So my ordinate pair is -6, comma 0. And similarly, I need to find that missing value from yesterday. I plug in 0 for x. If I plug in 0 for x, I have 3y equal to 24. Divided the 3 because 3 is multiplied to y. Divided by 3 to both sides, my y is equal to 8. So my ordinate pair is 0, comma 8. Question on how I find this item -6, or how do I find this item 8? All I did was I plug in 0 for the y, I got the x. I plug 0 for the x, I got the y. And this is your x-intercept, and this is your y-intercept. And that's why in the previous section in 3.2, I told you that you can pick the 0 diagonally all the time, because 0 should be the easiest number to pick. Anything times 0 is just 0. Question would be, and similarly, let's do C together, and then I let you do D by yourself. So if you look at this item, let's do all of this. Let's solve all of this item, and then we graph it, the next one. So if we have this, do you agree that I plug in 0, this thing disappear? Anything times 0 is disappear. 5x minus 0, 5x minus 0 is just 5x, because anything subtracts 0 is just that item. And 5x equal to -10. How do I get rid of the 5? As you can see, it's all redundant, right? To get rid of multiplication, I need to divide. And in this case, I divide 10 divided by 5, or -10 divided by 5, I have a -2. So my x value is -2. And if I plug in 0 for the x, 5 times 0 will give me 0. -y equal to -10. How do I get rid of this negative? In order to get rid of the negative, I need to divide by -1, because -1 divided by -1 will give me 1. And a -10 divided by -1, everybody see that y is equal to 10. Okay. So question here in term of B or C. So if you don't like to do A, again, the reason I show you A is just to tell you that you can let x equal to 0, y equal to 0, and solve. If you don't like that, you can construct this table and fill in your missing value. So let's take a look at, if you don't have question, let's take a look at D. Let me ask you guys to fill in this missing value for me. See if you can find my x by plug in 0 for the y, and see if you can find my y by plug in my 0 for the x. So see if you can do that. hopefully you guys see or able to find x equal to -2 and y is equal to -3. Anybody did not get -2, 0 and 0, -3?
I got the 2 and the 3. I just didn't get the negatives.
There's a -12, right? There's a -12 here. So when you divide it by 6, -12 divided by 6, you get a -2. And -12 divided by the 4, you have a -3, right?
You're correct. I wrote it down wrong. I did not write the negative.
You did
That
not.
answers it.
You did not copy the -12?
No, I just put 12. I didn't even see the negative.
Yeah,
But that answers it.
too much thing on the screen. But again, you know, the as you can see, it's very redundant, right? As you can see, it's pretty redundant. When you plug in 0, one of them is disappear. You just divide by the other number. When you plug in 0 for the other one, the other item disappear. You just have the item. Okay. So looking at this item, let's take a look at how do we graph this. So to graph this thing here, hopefully it's easy for you guys. To graph this item, we have, let's take a look at B. We have -6, 0. -6 tell me that I have to travel to the left 6 slot, and 0 tell me to stay there, right? -6, 0, this is where my -6, 0 come in. And 0, 8, 0 tell me to stay in the center, 8 tell me go up 8 slot, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So everybody see that this is the X-intercept down here, and this is the Y-intercept. Wherever the line crosses the X, that's where the X-intercept, and wherever the line crosses the Y, that is the Y-intercept. So everybody agree that this is my graph for B. -6, 0 down here, 0, 8 up here, and all I need to do is connect the dot. Okay. So question would be how you take this table, and put it in your graph, on your graph. And C, same thing go. Where is my -2, 0? -2, 0 is here, and 0, 10 is somewhere up there. I just need to take that and connect the two dots together. The line crosses my X at -2, and the line crosses my Y at 10. Question on how do I take -2, 0 and 0, 10. And lastly, to graph the D part, we have the same number, -2, 0, -2, 0 is there, 0, -3, 0 tell me stay put, -3 tell me go down 3 line. And in this case, this is my graph. So next time you will see that this graph that you have here, we call this a negative slope because it's decreasing. And the previous graph, this graph we call a positive slope, okay? But that would be the next item that we have. In 3.3, hopefully you guys see that 3.3 is very, like I say, easy because we only need to find the intercept. And the intercept is basically this 0 diagonal. Just know that this is my X because the number is on my X. So that's the X-intercept. And this is my Y because the number is on the Y. Okay. So first of all, question with this 3 item, how to graph them, how to find the intercept. Any question here? Well, like I mentioned to you guys in the